I want to start.
Oh, yeah, anytime you lose your water, it's an issue. The problem with a lot of our systems is that they're run by electric, and if we lose our electric for some reason,
We'll call this
it'll
meeting
be
order,
just
guys.
about
Everybody
everybody.
ready? Call this meeting order. I'll stand. Face the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Britton Luther.
Present.
R.J. Dunley.
Here.
Jim Yelkin, present. Approval of minutes.
Move that we approve the minutes of the preceding meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of claims.
I have a question. Is anybody here from 4-H or the Purdue Extension?
We can't hear you.
Well, your mic's on top, right?
Thank you. We didn't know that.
Is there anybody here from Purdue Extension? No. Okay. We just had some questions that why all the dollars are being spent out there. Does anybody know reason for that? That's the only question I have on it.
Why they're all spent?
The number of dollars being spent is, it appears, yeah, I don't know exactly why there's tens of thousands or $11,000, $12,000 being spent.
Is something you want to follow up on later?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have to see why. I expect I'd know, but I don't know for a fact.
I'll make a motion to approve claims.
Second your motion.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have public comment here today.
Payroll, Tim, real quick.
Excuse me. Switching off too quick. Approval of payroll.
Move that we approve the payroll for the period.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we're to public comment. We have public comment here today at the beginning of the meeting. Also, we're going to have it at the ending of the meeting. There's been some discussion and about what's going on here. I've always tried to be open to everyone, and I think that most people know that. I've always been available for phone calls. If you have a question, you can meet me at any time. Secondly, to make it more clear, I think moving the meeting, the open discussion to the beginning of a meeting also is important. Some was critical of it, and I have to say this, I'm trying to understand why people would be critical of moving it to the beginning of a meeting, because you know what the agenda is when you come. You could look at it, you can ask us questions before we make a decision. So, I mean, I don't know any place in a court of law that you'd want to go and wait until the decision is made before you have a chance to say something. So I think it's a positive thing to move it to the beginning of the meeting. Also, we're going to do it at the end of the meeting. And everyone has a right to say what they want to say. This has always been an open courtroom. There were some issues that came up that we had to kind of look at things a little bit differently. We don't want to be abused, or we don't want to be anyone taking advantage of anybody in here. And you have a right to come and speak, but we ask for courtesy of everyone, and we will also be very courteous and respect you. And there'll be a time limit of 3 minutes. I think that's what we're going to do. You want to say anything about that, RJ?
Yeah, since last meeting, Eric had mentioned some other places in the county that had done public comment. I think South Vermillion does what we're wanting to do now, public comment in the beginning and then a comment at the end, and I think that's a good, happy medium for everybody. So, yeah, I think that's a good thing that we're going to do.
Okay, we'll open up public comment. You have 3 minutes. And when I say time's up, please respect it.
John Moore, and I just would make one comment on that. Sometimes we don't have an agenda.
Okay.
So we don't have any idea what you're going to discuss in the meeting, which makes it kind of rough to address what's on the agenda if we don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, when I email the auditor's office, they always send me one if I ask for it. Be nice if it was on the calendar somehow, somewhere or another, a day or two in advance.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate that. Anybody else? No, we're moving on. For main rise.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Bob Gruy from Million Rise. Just a couple updates. One is we moved our meeting date this week from Thursday to Wednesday. Joe Ellis asked if everybody could make that, and it worked out. I looked at my calendar. I didn't know if I'm sure Joe had a conflict or something, but it is IU Purdue basketball that night, so I'm okay with changing the date. So probably a lot of other people are too, changing the date. One of the things with our sewer plant at our meeting, a priority issue is to change our sewer use ordinance to allow higher limits of phosphorus and grease and oil to help accommodate Scott Pett. They're up for an IDEM permit, and the previous ordinance really puts them in a box because our limits were so low because we didn't have treatment capacity. Now we have, you know, nearly unlimited treatment capacity if we put enough chemical in to treat for those things. So HWC will be giving us a recommendation as to what the appropriate limits are for our plant, and hopefully that'll let Scott Pett proceed with their permitting. And then also met with Mike from the Highway Department, and at our board meeting we're going to discuss the guardrails. We looked at the TNT area and indicated, you know, if majority of that area is going to be utilized for a solar initiative, we ought to be able to forfeit those guardrails. And we did talk about keeping some of them in the corner at intersections where, you know, there's maybe a bit of a ditch or a drop off, but they indicated they could be very busy for the amount of time that they have free time before I guess it warms up. So those are some of the two items on our agenda for Wednesday night.
So what's the status on your solar?
Yeah, well, we're still discussing the parcels that we want to put in. You know, I suspect at some point in time there'll be a consideration about the economic development incentives. That seems to be the case with most of these renewable projects. And we're working on the lease agreement, and Barnes & Thornburg is helping us with that.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you. Thank you. For Main Trails Alliance, I don't see anyone here today.
They're out there working today.
Yeah. Last, here a couple days ago, they started the project of removing all the railroad ties and doing the railroad grade from Montezuma Bridge in. The company's doing an excellent job. We was down there the other day and poured concrete on the approach. And so it's a lot going on and moving right along with it. So you'll hear more about that later. Also, we're meeting today, if I'm not mistaken, today is the day. We'll be meeting with the state of Indiana, the overpass there at Cayuga. They're going to wreck that out. And what we're trying to do is secure an opening through there so we have some way to get across the 4 lanes. And that's a very valuable thing to do, and hopefully we can get that secured. That's one of the problems with trails. You can't get the state to approve you do a crossing across a 4-lane is almost impossible. So we're going to try to work on maybe possibly securing that. So we have a meeting today if someone wants to attend, I think at 4 o'clock. Is that, am I right?
They moved it to the fair, for the community building.
And it's at 4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock.
Year-end bids. You want to take care of that, RJ?
Sure. So we have bids for fuel, aggregate, bituminous, and culverts. I would make a motion to accept E3 Bridge for the culverts, Milestone for bituminous, and accept all aggregates.
If there's a motion, I'll second that motion to
Yep.
approve those. Do you want to name the award winners, so?
I named
Did you do
mine.
that?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I named
I'm
it.
sorry,
Yeah,
I missed that.
no, you're okay.
You second.
I did.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed?
And then the other bid, upon some discussion, I think it's best to reject the only fuel bid that we received. And I forget the company's name, if it's Illini.
Illini FS.
Yeah, Illini IFS. I'll make a motion to reject Illini IFS for the only fuel bid received.
Well, it's all fuel bids, yeah.
Yeah.
Second the motion, if that was a motion.
Yep.
Yes.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? APC HWC Comprehensive Plan. Who's here today? You here?
Hello, Jonathan Smith, HWC Engineering. I just wanted to come today to give you an update on kind of where we've been the past year, working with APC to get the comprehensive plan to meet the Okra deadline. I don't know if you guys have received the packet that we sent, but we have a pretty substantial comprehensive plan. I have printouts that I can share, as well as the count or the schedule. So if you want to pass the schedule around here, be good. And then I can, if you guys want individual copies, I have these as well.
Has the schedule changed?
The schedule, as in the one that was sent at the end of last year, has not changed so far.
Thank you.
The biggest update is that we have 2 workshops planned with APC Thursday and next Thursday to finalize the remaining comments that we have in the plan itself. But we're on track to turn it in at the end of this month per Okra's requirements, so they could do their final review. Do you have any questions, I guess, about that process before we go any further? No. All right, so yeah, once we turn it into Okra at the end of the month, they'll take about 30 to 45 days to finalize their review, and then we move into the adoption phase, which would be in March of this year. But between then and at the adoption time, we still have some time to kind of fill in some loose ends, those type of things. So we do have some time to do that. But the actual project closeout is at the end of April of this year. Okay. So we're kind of up against a pretty tight time frame, but I think everybody from APC is ready to get it done by the end of the month, and we'll have a plan that we can turn in. I guess the question from our end would be, would you guys want to see that before it gets handed over to Okra, in addition to this?
Yes.
Yes. And I guess what would that process be?
A copy, I'd prefer electronic copy of the final submittal anyway.
Okay. Will that just be something that we would send to you when we send it to Okra? Is that okay? Because the timing's going to be kind of weird.
Well,
Or-
I would prefer a week or so before, at least.
Okay.
If we have, are you representing APC tonight, or do they have a different?
No, APC.
I guess we'll wait and see what APC has to say.
And
about it.
that's totally fine. I'm not representing them in any way, and I'm sorry if I alluded to that. So
No.
I'm mostly just coming here telling you where I've been with APC. And
Okay.
that's kind of where we're
You're
at.
wanting to see a copy of what the APC approves before it goes to Okra? Is that what
What?
you're saying?
You guys are doing what you need to do, but I'd just like to have a copy before it actually gets submitted.
Okay, I agree. You guys should have a copy also.
So I think what our plan will be, we have a workshop this Thursday, and that's where we're going to take care of the majority of the comments, and then we're going to have a follow-up workshop to confirm those. What we'll do is we'll send it to you after our 20th workshop, which is this Thursday. That way you guys can see where it's at, because that's will be where it's going to be at its closest to final state. And if there's like some minor comments, you guys could also chime in as well if you need to. And that would still give you about a week and a half before we have to turn it in.
Mhm.
Does that seem fair?
Yes.
Okay. Does that seem fair to you
Fits
guys?
within the time frame. Again, pending what APC has to say.
Okay.
You're gonna have somebody at the meeting to take notes for any changes?
Me.
Both of them, both meetings?
Yes. Yep.
Where's these meetings gonna be held?
Right here.
Okay.
They're on the calendar.
Okay.
They'll be posted out front, but it's Thursday, the 20th and the 27th, beginning at 6 o'clock here in the Commissioner's Courtroom.
So, I do want to give you kind of update where we've kind of been. So the past few months, we've been able to get pretty far as working through the goals and the main parts of the plan. We also were able to harness a lot more participation in the realm of a survey. So we're able to get a survey out there in November, December of last year, and we kind of wrapped that up right at the end of the year, which gave us over 647 participants, which we only had about 230 participants last time. So it's much better. So we have a much better range of people. And it looks like we have a lot of people on both ends of the county, which is really good. So I think from that standpoint, we're in a better shape. So I feel pretty good about it, but I think it's you guys' plan. So if you guys feel good about it, then I feel good about it. So.
Are the replies really consistent, or are they a shotgun pattern?
It was very consistent. It was very close to what we had originally, but we have more people. So it's kind of just echoing everything that we've talked about to this date. So, and it supports all the goals that we have in the plan. That's something I can go over the goals with you today if you want to, or leave that out. I mean, I can just talk about general parts about the project as well.
Assuming that they're in the plan, I can review them there unless
Yep.
unless you find it necessary for the.
No, we'll have an opportunity to speak in public and tell everybody about the goals on another date too, so this wouldn't be the only time.
Okay.
Okay.
Generalizations are fine.
What's that?
Generalizations are fine right now.
Okay. So I think as far as schedule goes, I had mentioned March, so I think we need to at least put down March 15th, which I believe is one of your commissioners' meetings. That was what we were going to kind of identify as the adoption date. So that'll be something that I'll request, but I just want to make sure you guys are clear that it needs to be adopted in March. So what would come to that, in order to get to that, APC would approve it on their end and give a recommendation to you guys, whether they approve it or not, in order to do the adoption process. So that's how that would kind of roll down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's really all I really have. I can answer any questions that you guys might have or anything like that.
The APC is fine with their approval coming by March 10th anyway. Does it look like you guys will be able to make that, or?
We will
appears that
have a
way?
document that will be able to be sent in
Okay.
by
Yes.
the end of January. Our question from the APC is the amendments that will have to be made to this, whose dime is that on?
Can you come up here to speak, please?
Okay.
Identify yourself.
Are you done with your presentation?
That's fine. Yeah.
Scott Nogle, Chair of the APC. Our question is, we believe that by the end of January, we can have a document to send to Okra. We agree with that. But we also think there'll be some things that will need to be amended in the document. Our question is, whose dime will this be on and who will be responsible for updating it? Is that gonna come, is Ms. Carpenter gonna have to do that? Make amendments to this and resubmit it if there's amendments to be made, or who will be responsible for doing that? There'll probably be some copies that'll need to be run off. That can get quite expensive. It's a big document. And then if we have to change it 2 or 3 different times, there could be some expense wound up. If we have to hold special workshops afterwards, you know, there's more money from the taxpayers to pay us to meet. So, you know, there could be some considered expenses.
Yeah, Scott, my 2 cents would be that since this project was started, you know, via the previous administration, I like to see it through. So if you guys need extra help in any way, I would support that, whatever you guys need.
I mean, we've had Mr. Smith tell us that, you know, he'll help, but there's never been any commitment, you know, what they'll do after it's submitted.
After it's submitted.
Because it'll have to be, if there's gonna be any amendments made, once it's sent in, we go through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Mhm.
It'll have to be after the adoption date. You know, are they done with us? Is it
What's the?
our document then? You know, that's our big question.
Yeah.
Where do we stand if we have to do, you know, some fine-tuning? Whose dime is that on?
Well, if you guys gotta correct it to make sure it's up to date, I mean, I would be all for helping in any way we can to make sure you guys have the resources you need.
Do you have an answer from HWC's perspective on any of that?
Yeah, so if you look at the last page on the schedule, we did commit up to 60 days after the adoption.
Okay.
For any of those last minute changes or things that you wanted to do that you weren't able to get on in front of Okra, we're happy to do that. With that said, if you guys did want to take a hiatus and think about it before you want to do that, we can kind of kickstart that and talk about the hours that we would commit to that, and that's fine from our standpoint. I can go back and get a committal as far as like hours.
Okay.
Is that including the expenses that the APC has been referencing as well?
As far as prints, I think we could print up to 15 copies, maybe twice. I think that's what.
So we basically have those costs covered, I would think. Can these submittals be made electronically? Do they need to be paper or hard copies?
So the prints would just be for you guys' effort. It wouldn't be for anyone else. Okra doesn't need to see it. Okra doesn't even require prints. They just require a digital format.
Well, I'm the same way. I don't know about the other two commissioners. You don't need to be doing that on my account anyway.
Correct.
I would prefer
and that's
electronic
fine.
versions.
And we can whittle it down to the main document. We don't have to print the appendix every time because that's not going to change necessarily.
You know, just be efficient.
Yep, and that's fine with us. We'll work with you guys to make that work. We understand where we're at on this.
What about town hall? Will you guys have representation in our town halls?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, let's stick within the 60-day limit. But if you guys want to take a hiatus, like I said, we would commit to some hours.
Sounds like that makes everything good.
As long as they'll commit to enough hours, to work with us and get it
Are you
done.
guys not talking? I mean,
Yeah, we're talking, but they don't like some of the things we say.
okay. Is that something we need to discuss here, or is that really something
No, we're gonna
APC
get
will
them
take
done in
care
our
of?
workshop.
Okay. Well, let us know if there's something we can help
Hopefully it'll all be
facilitate.
handled in-house.
Yeah, well, if you need some facilitation, let us know what that is.
Yeah.
We'll help if we can.
Just get it done and we support you, and if you need any extra stuff, come back and talk to us about it.
We're committed to getting this through this month, and then also we have to discuss the continuation of this. This isn't going to be the end of the comprehensive plan. It's going to be a living document as we go
Right,
forward.
the way it was submitted, that this should be done every 3 to 5 years. So,
You know, and we'll have another discussion, but I think there's a part 2 to this, part 1 too, so.
correct, I agree.
Of course. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to the Highway Department, Bridge 90, bridge bid status, OJ.
So we went out for rebid on Bridge 90. Came in a little bit higher the second time. White Construction was the only bid at, and I don't know if I'm correct, Annie, $390,000, $394,000. This is a project that's been slated to be done up in the north end of the county. I would like to seek approval today, a motion to award Bridge 90 to White Construction contingent on financing. There's a couple options. I would probably move to use some of the ARPA funding, just because I know our highway department is going to be a little short on culverts this year.
Are you wanting to make that part of your motion as to where the funding is coming from, or just subject to funding?
I would say subject to, but that would be one that I would push to use.
Subject to funding.
Just leave it at
Yeah,
subject to
I'll
funding.
make a motion to award Bridge 90 to White Construction, subject to funding.
I'll second your motion.
Discussion.
I don't have any.
All in
Bridge
favor?
90 located.
Tree Spring Road.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Application for Highway 63 Millings and Guardrail pending. Rick, you've been on that one.
Talked with Milestone. This Millings don't appear that they'll be available this year from the 63 project. That can always change with, who knows what the day. They will start back in at sometime in March, most likely, pending weather conditions, maybe earlier or later. But it doesn't look like we're going to be subject to being able to obtain any of those. I am going to be submitting another document. I've already submitted one to NDOT requesting them millings off any project in the Vermillion County. We got another one that's coming up on I-74, and see if we cannot have that included in the contracts as we go forward, as opposed to having to make the request through the contractors. We've also requested, and this is still pending at this point, is all the guardrail that is being taken off the northbound lane on 63 going, hitting Vermillion County and possibly all the way down to the beginning of the project, closer to the Wabash River. And that looks favorable at this point, at least for the parts that are inside Vermillion County. So that would be a very nice addition to, we'll have to pick it up, but it looks like that NDOT will take it down and lay it to the side, and we'll be able to collect those materials and be able to use them for the county purposes. So that's where we stand with that at this point.
Yeah, we've been trying to get millings. Millings is a big thing. If we can get large, had originally wanted to get all 63 paving that was on the new project, which would have been a tremendous asset to the county. And appreciate Britton working on that. Hopefully we can get some of those in the future. County engineer, NDOT authority status.
We've made a proposal to NDOT requesting that NDOT provide a regional engineer, or a regional county engineer. This would be something similar to the Purdue Extension agents, similar to the soil and water executives or agent, where the state provides an engineer through their system, and they accommodate one county, two counties, or three counties, or an area. Effectively, what that would do is allow us access to NDOT's engineering, NDOT's specifications, changes, expertise, labs, etc., all the way down the line, if we can have that county engineer assigned to us with either no cost or minimal cost to the county at this point. Engineers right now are going at a premium. NDOT's even having a hard time being able to retain engineers, that the consultants are swooping in and picking them up at this point. I don't see the county being able to, unless we find somebody that's retiring or to the county or whatever, the case may be, of being able to entice someone to be a county engineer here in the county at this point, given that they're not a dime a dozen at this point. They're a rare breed, it seems like, to be able to hire. It has cleared the legal in NDOT. They have determined that they do have the authority to be able to do this. Now it's just a matter of whether they have the will and the way to be able to actually put this forward. Work with John Ford and Mr. Phil Boots on this. If we can't get it through NDOT, at some point we'll have legislation drafted, but unfortunately that would take another year and a half or whatever before that would actually come to fruition. So hopefully NDOT will be able to accommodate this, and they seem to be enthusiastic about it. It looks like a good program for us. Another benefit is that should like a county engineer leave, we would probably have a discontinuity in our program at that point, and so it may be a year, 2 years before we'd be able to find another engineer to actually fill that role. By having it going through this regional type program, it would allow us to have a continuity program. NDOT would be able to fill that position. Also, an engineer wouldn't necessarily have to be a professional engineer for the county. He could be working underneath a professional engineer at NDOT. So there's a lot of enticements, if you will, to try to have this type of program, and either at no cost or minimal cost to the county at that point. That's about all I have to say about that.
I think getting a county engineer would be a humongous asset to our county. A lot of decisions that we commissioners have to make, we'd much rather an engineer who's more qualified to make those decisions. I think would be a tremendous asset. We talked about that previously, and we didn't get it worked out a couple of years ago, but maybe this is the one that puts it all together, especially coordinate with other counties. So I think it's a great idea. Application interview, bridge number 37.
We had an interview last week with NDOT on bridge number 37 for the NOFA, which is federal funding. Basically, it's a 20-80%. The 23 will be the beginning of that project, assuming that we are approved. That's what the interview was for. It went very well. I think we'll be able to garner those funds, but it'll be another month or so before we actually find out whether we've been accepted into that program for bridge number 37. The one thing that they did say to us was that we can make multiple applications, other than just bridge number 37. The thing is we still have to cover that cost. So we can make multiple applications, but we also have to have that 20% committed to those projects if we're going to do that. So we do have some limitations there as well. And they are extended programs. The construction on this would not start until 27. 27. Yeah, maybe 37 by the time we get done, but 27.
That's one of the things we are working on. There's I don't know if nobody, very many people know, but what happened here last year, a little back, that we got hit with a rain. It was a 50-year rain, and it was pretty devastating. And people think all this stuff is suddenly appeared, but what happened with this rain, it was pretty destructive. And I think that what we're doing now and what Britain's doing, the federal funding is available. Federal funding is so far out on these projects, and it'd be nice if we could eventually get those on a schedule, the ones that we know that in some type of a schedule of repair, and then we could, instead of fighting with all the funding ourselves, it'd be an 80-20, and that would be a tremendous savings to our county. So we're in the process of getting that done too. So another great thing that could really be very helpful in financing this issues we have.
Come March 1st, or March, plus or minus March 1st, we should have our comprehensive asset management plan started. At that point, we'll have the data available to us from Thrive from that contract. And from there, we'll be able to develop our 1-year plan and then our 5-year plan from there. So we'll be able to map out where we're at. Unfortunately, I think the only NOFA, a federal program we've had for I don't know how many years, but the only one I'm aware of is the one that you applied for the Hillsdale Bridge. I don't remember the number on that, 122 maybe. But that was the only one that we've applied for. It's the only one we've ever applied for in recent history anyway. So and we didn't get that.
Bridge 80 was a federal project.
Was it?
Yes.
Good. We have a few. Hopefully we'll be signing one of these every year as we go down the road. But again, now we'll get back to how this asset management plan comes together and how we assign costs to those. So.
Again, if we get 20% required funding on a 100% project, I mean that's a good deal. Only 20%. So we're working on that in the future. Road closure 75 west, south of 950 south. That's your.
We have a 1930. We have a number of structures that date back into late 20s, early 30s that finally figured out what's happening with them. They're being undercut at this point. This will probably show up in our March data when we receive the asset management. But we lost another structure on County Road 75 West. We're in the process of having that replaced. It's a concrete culvert, I guess you'll call it. But it's going to be a rather expensive little culvert, and so we're in the process of, we've got it sized now, but it's a matter of putting together what the design is going to look like. It has rather tall 17 to 20 foot retaining walls in it at this point. So it matters most efficient design and application for the construction of that. But right now the road is closed at that crossing anyway.
Community crossing grant status. We're working on that. Hopefully we'll get that in before the end of the month, which we're trying for. So we can have another meeting on that, discuss that, to get clarification, everybody get on board. So that's in the process. Every year we apply for a grant for the state of Indiana. We originally was applying for $1 million grant, and we got that grant about every year, or close to every year. And then 2 years ago we upped that to $1.33 million and asked for funding for $333,000 from the council, which the council approved, and we have it on file every year. So we go for the max, and hopefully this year we can be successful again in $1.33 million or whatever the state gives us. So. Highway asset plan status management.
Still in the process of collecting data at this point. It should be available March plus or minus 1st.
Okay. Okay, new business, public defender considerations.
Public Defender's Office has if you're not aware, there's a new program, or I guess it's the initial program for a regional basis for the public defender. We've had problems in the county, not just this county, but just most rural counties are having problems finding public defenders and retaining them and being able to follow that program through. The public defenders, the state has authorized Vermilion County, Fountain County, and Park County to combine in a regional basis instead of just doing it by county, being able to take those 3 counties. And it's a trial program. So they're going to be able to administer this program through that. I think it comes out that they'll pay 40% of the initial costs for buildings, utilities, etc. And the remainder of the costs will be broke down according to the county workload, or the caseload, I guess it would be. So each county would have a percentage, and then whatever that other costs are will be divided up accordingly to that effect. They decided that the regional office would be in Vermilion County, and so right now we're taking into consideration 3 locations at this point. Could be others, but at least 3 locations. One here, 2 of them on the square here, and then another one at a facility further out. We do not have any earmarks on costs with that building, or whether we only know of one that is available to us today at this point. We're still under review.
Location or consideration of that?
You know, the 3 locations, and it's not limited to this, but the 3 locations under consideration right now is the Rise. We are in talks with First Financial for the building here on the south side, and then there's another building here on the east side that's available currently. That'll be refitted, an existing building that would be a lease arrangement for the. I don't remember the Ringwald, I think.
Brad Ringwald.
Mr. Ringwald has that building. We're hoping to be able to meet with him yet this week or next week and be able to garner what he has to offer with that. It would be a lease arrangement with those operations.
When do you think we'll hear something back on the First Financial on the bank?
Hoping this week that we had a meeting with them last week. It went very well. That'll carry over to some other aspects. I think that meeting had hit on a number of different things that we can maybe work with First Financial on. But I'm hoping to should hear from this week as far as getting down to the nuts and bolts of what that arrangement would be. What it is that First Financial has closed their Newport facility here effective December 31st, and so it's going to be disposed of. It is amortized out with First Financial, and we'll be starting negotiations hopefully this week with them as far as the potential of the county being able to take over that building, take over that property actually. And they have some other plans for that property. It would have to be refitted on the inside, and whether it can all be done in time. I believe the public defender needs it placed by April 1st, and so that's the deadline by having a facility anyway available to them. Offices, that is.
Okay. Move on to economic development. We had some changes there. Deb, do you want to address it, or do you want to address it?
No, I can. Probably best. We're looking at some structural changes inside our economic development. And John, can you give us a little bit of the history leading up to this process? Started, I don't know exactly when Dylan left, but about 2 months before Dylan left the county for other employment. This process started, and so it's been taking this long finally to garner the information and the history of it and the workings of it. So we've made a completion of that, and I think it'd be best to start out with the history of why where we're at today.
What it started out with was early last year there was a question as to some of the commissioners' appointments to the Economic Development Council. And I looked in the statutes, and there's no statutory reference to an Economic Development Council anywhere. There's references to an Economic Development Commission, and statutory references to creating an economic development department, but council doesn't come up anywhere. And so I started talking with Dylan, and he started looking, and I started looking, and Dylan started finding some old meeting minutes. And when Dylan left, the new attorney for economic development, Brandon Beckering, took over and started working on this, and they went all the way back to 1994. And in 1994, the county council exercised its statutory authority to create an economic development commission and an economic development department. And then the economic development department, after it's created, it just kind of disappears from the record. It's not, there's no offices, no staffing, it's just kind of not really mentioned again. And about a year later, in the spring of 1995, the Economic Development Commission passes a resolution to create an advisory body for itself. And they called this advisory body the Economic Development Council, and they gave some appointments to the county council and some appointments to the county commissioners. There was some tinkering with the membership of that council over the years, but at some unknown point, the Economic Development Council started doing things like voting and hiring employees, and so that brought us up to present, where almost everything's being done in the name of an Economic Development Council. We've never done anything with the Economic Development Department after it was created, and the Economic Development Commission has just kind of almost been absorbed by the Economic Development Council. So once we got all this, I shared it with the commissioners and with Ashley, and I think Brandon shared it with Economic Development, and that brings us up to today.
And where we stand today is that we are going to bring this back into the structure as that it should be legally and by statute. The Economic Development Commission is a body that's the only body, I think, that the county council can form. They did that. The commission's not always acted in the ways that are structurally what they're supposed to do, and that was resolved in October of last year, 2021. So the commission is now a functioning commission, and their duties are defined by statute. So there's no changes there at all. There's no structural changes with that. Accordingly, we've also now are going to start staffing, if you will, the Economic Development Department. That will be with Bill Hess. Doug Hess, I'm sorry. I told you I wouldn't do that today.
Knew that was coming.
Yeah, I have a friend that's Bill Hess, and for some reason it just carries over. But anyway, he'll be the executive director. It's basically, it doesn't change anything as what they're doing or how they're doing it. How they're doing it maybe a little bit, but they will actually now be formally known as the Economic Development Department, and Bill will be the executive director. Doug will be the executive director of that. And how Doug wants to structure that department, it comes up through the commissioners, but how he'll make recommendations, and he'll staff that department how he sees fit and what's proper for him to be able to do that. And as far as his locations, with what he has now in the works, will continue. There's no reason to even miss a step with any of that that's going on at this point in time. And he'll define that department as he wears into it, if you will. And I think that's about the essence of it. Whether there's advisory council members, that'll be up to the Economic Development Commission. They are an independent commission. They do not report to the commissioners. They do not report to the council except for the appointments. The Economic Development Commission has an appointment from the commissioners, one from the council, and one from the largest city, which would be Clinton. So there's 3 appointments to that, and whatever they decide is how they operate. So the only thing that's a check to that is that the county council does provide their budget or doesn't provide their budget, and gives them whatever monies they think they have to operate with. They're basically a financial arm. They can let loans, they can borrow monies, they can sell bonds. They have rights to go in with CSOP programs, basically employee programs to take over businesses that are either failing or going to be moving. So they have a number of powers, but they're basically a financial tool. And with that, that's another tool that the Economic Department can leverage if they wish to. It's one of the tools in their toolbox that they can use. They do have some loans and whatever's out right now, and all those things will continue just as they have been. So basically, there's no functional changes to the process of what had been happening with economic development, but there will be structural changes. Basically, have reporting up through is about the extent of it. This will actually consolidate some of the issues I think the county has had as far as people being able to cooperate and be able to actually bring in. It'll affect the APC, it'll affect the BZA. They'll all be playing in the same sandbox now. And so whatever changes need to be affected, those quantities will, or those leaders in those groups will now be able to work together and be able to understand what's going on as far as the development of the county, and where we're not disjointed, if you will, with our message going forward to any type of businesses or any type of economic development that we have that's in the works at this point. The third aspect, and again, this is an independent, is the RISE. Hoping that we can, because the RISE appointments come down through the commissioners also, that those entities will start coordinating their efforts, and those things have already started. They've been doing that for a few months now, and by this we'll be able to continue that process of being able to give out a singular message and find the best place in the county, not necessarily one location or another location, but the best place in the county. And then working with APC and BZA, we'll be able to make those changes so that the land uses and the land effects and the requirements for zoning are compatible with what they envision to be going forward into this one, the comprehensive plan. And then part two, what we referenced a little bit earlier, being able to get into what I call enterprise zones, where we're actually now getting down to actually planning our area, the areas in the county that are to be developed, whether it's going to be residential, commercial, or industrial, but actually getting down to 20,000 foot view, getting down to the 5,000 foot view, and even lower to that, and actually going with the Economic Development Commission and actually putting in the infrastructure to be able to make whatever that plan is to go forward. So all this has been in the works for, well, maybe 10 months or whatever. Now the fruition of that is coming in today. So we're relying on our leaders of APC, we're relying on our leaders in the Economic Development and the Commission, and from our building department to bring all this together and to be able to make this one message go forward and be able to find the best places for the businesses and the people that are moving into the county. So that's the short version.
Professional contract clerk deeds, we're going to approve that, correct? On that stuff?
Yeah, I'm not, we're not ready for that yet.
Do you have the contract? We don't have a copy of it.
We're not, it's still being talked about. We're not ready to bring that
We're
forward.
probably not going to approve it anyway. So. Courthouse closure ordinance, COVID?
I don't have an ordinance in front of me today. We did have to close the courthouse last week, so at our next meeting, we'll have an ordinance we can read and pass at the next meeting.
Okay. Public comment?
Maybe before we get to public comment, Doug, would you want to say anything, or do you have a prepared speech for the next hour?
No, I don't have anything prepared. Wasn't planning on making a big speech today. The only thing I would ask for clarification though, and this is just for my clarification. Britton, you had mentioned something, and maybe I misunderstood you, but is it you were talking about having the council, is that up to the commission, economic commissioners to have the council, or is that up to, and I'm just asking for clarification.
The council was supposed to have always been an advisory council, advice only.
Okay.
And with the change from basically an entity that was just there but not having any formal recognition as far as statute goes, or even as far as ordinance goes, or whatever the county did, the council really didn't exist. It just happened. It was named as advisory. It morphed into something different, but that's up to you as Economic Development Director, Executive Director, as to whether you want to continue an advisory council. They won't be able to vote or do anything to that effect. We're not given that type of latitude, but that's up to you whether and your recommendations as to how that advisory council, if you wish to have one, you don't have to have one, but if you wish to have one, how that would work and what the makeup of that council would be. whether it be all citizens, largest employers, all bankers, whatever it might be, is up to you, and then whatever other criteria you might come up with. But that's your recommendations as to how you need assistance or want assistance for that matter. As far as the Economic Development Commission, they can have their own advisory council. That is up to them. They're an independent, more or less an independent body. Commissioners, they don't report to anybody other than their financing has to still come through the council, and bonding and those type of things still have to go through the council. But it's up to them whether they want an advisory council also. But those three commissioners we already named are still responsible. Likewise, you're still responsible for the economic development, regardless of what this advisory body would say or whatever. When it drills down to it, it's your position, so you will report for it, you'll be responsible for it. Same thing with the commission.
So just for verification, I could have my own council and the commissioners could have their own council, just for clarification.
And if you guys want to work together, we want cooperation.
Sure, absolutely.
The commission is an arm of the county of which provides a lot of different financing options and things that we can do through them. They're part of your toolbox, basically. Though they're still independent, they're part of your toolbox. But if they want somebody to advise them, and who they want to advise them is up to them.
Thank you.
Public comment, if you want to speak, please come forward.
I got a couple of questions about the bids. On our bids,
You gotta come up here, sorry.
on the bids for the highway department, I noticed that you accepted Milestone as the bituminous. Did we not receive one from Asphalt Materials? Because primarily that's who we buy most of our oil from for all of our road projects.
Asphalt Materials was, I think, absorbed by Milestone.
No, that was Wabash Valley Asphalt. Asphalt Materials is its own company.
We did not receive anything from Asphalt Materials I'm aware of. It's not on my sheet. Stephanie?
Or Cheyenne.
Cheyenne, I mean.
Yeah, that's Stephanie Cheyenne.
The other Stephanie. The other Cheyenne.
You can check. I remember opening them, and I'm not sure. I don't quite remember.
That wouldn't
seeing-
that wouldn't be the bituminous that we've accepted. If it
No,
was, it was
Milestone is
accepted.
mostly the asphalt itself, but
Yeah.
Asphalt Materials is the oils that you would be using for
Did we
all your...
receive one?
I do not know. I'm just saying, I know they submitted one the first go-around.
All those bids were rejected.
Right.
So just because we don't have a bid also doesn't mean that we can't purchase things. That's just whether we want to have a bid or if we reach a certain milestone as far as cost goes. But I'm not
true.
aware that we received anything from Asphalt.
Is that Tom Martin too?
Yes, it
But,
is.
Yeah.
They're all together. I mean,
That's Milestone. That's all the same
Tom Martin
company.
is Asphalt Materials. Milestone is
Okay.
different, okay. And my next question is on the fuel. Since you rejected the fuel, are you going to rebid it, or are you just, what are you doing with it?
Currently, I don't know if we plan on rebidding it, but right now we're just buying it on the open market from Scott's currently, right?
That's, yeah, they agreed to
To do
keep
that?
supplying us until you make a
Until we
decision
make
on
a
what you're
different
gonna
decision,
do.
that's where we're at.
I think we'll leave it at that, and then unless we decide to rebid or pending, commissioner's agreement on what to do next.
Okay.
Because there was some, not gonna say confusion, but there was some discrepancies on
confusion. There was
the
confusion.
fuel bids, and we only had one legitimate one, so that's why we rejected that today.
Okay.
If
Also,
you have any questions, actually, you can always get hold of us anytime.
yeah. Also, when the courthouse closes, could you also notify the outlying offices that the courthouse is closed, so that we know not to drive all the way up here or come up here for, if we need to drop something
Yeah,
off or something?
I'll take the brunt of that, so a lot of that should be sent out on a county email, and that was, failed to do so, whether that's on, me or the auditor's office, either one, but yeah, that's something we can make sure we do in the future, so I do apologize if any office holders from outside of the courthouse made a trip up here.
Anybody else? I have a few closing comments I want to say. There've been some questions over the time about an appointment to the APC, if I get that right. And I want our attorney to comment on that. So, get closure on this.
The question you put to me was about how to resolve a question about the residency of a membership of the Area Plan Commission, and that's under, the code cites 36-7-4-216, and if you read through that code section, it says the commission, referring to the Area Plan Commission, shall determine whether a citizen member meets all applicable residency requirements for appointment in accordance with uniform rules prescribed by the commission. So my suggestion is if there's a question about the residency of a member of the commission, that question should go to the commission to resolve under their own rules under this statute.
So that answers your question. That is a decision to be made by the commission for area planning.
We certified all our members at our first meeting.
You already did that this year?
We had a member certification, yes, sir.
Can you send me a copy of that, because I think it'll be made known publicly that that happened and you guys approved that, and it's not a commissioner issue. You guys certified it, right?
Yes, we had Ms. Carpenter ask each person about their residence, and if they were on any member of any other board, it would keep them from being a member of the Area Plan Commission.
Okay, because that's been something hanging around after us commissioners,
Yes,
the
we
blame
had
of that.
We had our lawyer look into it also, and as far as he could tell, everybody was good. I think he conferred with John, or John also was brought into the loop on that. So I think from what everybody answered the questions, we're all good.
So that issue is dead, correct? It's resolved?
As far as we're concerned, on
Okay.
the area plan, all members are legal.
Okay, that has been an issue for a long time, and we commissioners have took the brunt of the blame of it, and I knew there was another answer to it, and I told people give us some time to get it resolved, and as far as we know, it's resolved, and if they have any questions, they can contact you guys,
We had
correct?
that question brought up, and that's why we got our certification for every member.
I appreciate you taking care of that, I really do. One other thing, I was going to give an update back to, and you guys can all comment if you want to. November 22nd, I believe we sent a request to the health board to send for someone new, for a new applicant, right?
Mhm.
And we have not heard back from that. I'm talking as myself, these two that can comment what they want, but we're here to resolve that. And if they bring forth a new applicant and we can make a special meeting, I'm talking about me, I'm saying my comment. Anytime they want to meet, we'll have a special meeting to get this resolved. And I'm saying since November 22nd, we have been waiting, and we are here to resolve that as soon as they want to. And it's been drawn out way too long. There's been a lot of things said, and we need to end this. So we're waiting on them, and the moment they make a commitment to bring someone forth, we're ready to get this thing resolved. It's not us, we're waiting on them. So we appreciate them to participate, and let's get this resolved and moved on. Any comment to that?
I would just second that. I would ask the health board to do their statutory requirements and send us a new nomination for the health officer. The sooner the better. It has been since November, and I think it's past time for them to send us a new recommendation.
Any other comment?
Asphalt Materials, the bid. And it says it's dated December 22nd, so I guess that is incorrect.
We should do that ourselves.
What's the question? Was it inadvertently not considered, or what happened?
Was it on our spreadsheet that you provided
I
us?
didn't have the spreadsheet, those are just the bids, I have no idea, I wasn't here, I'm sorry.
Sean, would you be able to provide us with that spreadsheet that you put together?
Yeah, I can go get that.
Thank you.
If it was inadvertently left off, you might want to reopen that and reconsider those bids.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I seen it on the
I think
spreadsheet.
that was a separate line item from those three that were, or the four that were considered here. And if we do, that's the only one we received on that material anyway. We did not receive anything else that I know of, but we'll see what the auditor has for us.
Asphalt Materials typically falls under the bituminous heading, when you award bituminous, but primarily they're just the oil part of the bituminous, they're not the actual asphalt. Usually if you accept the bituminous, that is the category they fall under.
Well, okay. We're going to have to take that under advisement anyway.
Okay.
Don't know I've seen it.
Let's take it under advisement.
At this point.
Okay. We'll take it under advisement and discuss it next meeting. Anybody else? Going.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second the motion is adjourned.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.